We were.
Yeah.
Well, it's 9 o'clock, so I'd like to call the August 5th, 2014 City Council meeting to order. Would the clerk please call the roll?
Bush.
Here.
Soldner. Here. Pyros de Carvalho.
Here.
Dave Line.
Here.
Pruitt. Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
This morning's prayer will be given by Pastor Ken Beery of Trinity United Methodist Church. Thank you.
You're invited to pray with me. God of all life, thank you for the little things, like the laughter of children and hope-filled new beginnings. Keep us centered around things that matter. As we work together, let us put aside our personal agendas and work for the greater good. May each voice be heard, may solutions be identified, and may our community be a safe place for all. All this we ask in Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. We have two proclamations this morning, and I'd like to start with the proclamation for First Call for Help. So will Kathy Davis join me at the podium? Whereas First Call for Help provides financial assistance for utilities, rent, and other assistance and referrals to individuals, families, the elderly, and the disabled in the community. And whereas First Call for Help serves as a clearinghouse for facilitating help and assistance to avoid duplication of services. And whereas in a time when financial resources are stretched, many continue to need the First Call for Help resources. And whereas First Call for Help is celebrating 31 years of service in the community of Hutchinson in August, now therefore I, Jade Pyros de Carvalho, Vice Mayor of the City of Hutchinson, Kansas, do hereby proclaim the month of August 2014 to be First Call for Help Month in the city to recognize and celebrate the 31 years of service given by First Call for Help to those in need. Would you like to say a few words?
Sure. Well, I'm the new director of First Call for Help. I took over in February. I was interim director before that. We are at a new location now. We're at 721 West 2nd, about a half a block from Boys and Girls Club. We are in a great big project we do every year. It's the back to school time for backpacks. So we give 450 backpacks away already to Boys and Girls Clubs. So we're on full throttle giving away supplies right now. They actually start giving away on Monday, but we are serving full Reno County this year. We're doing Fairfield, Haven, Nickerson, Bueller, so we have a lot of supplies going out of our building. Come by and see us anytime. We have a lot of new services going. I don't know if everyone knows, we do help with rent if they're going to get evicted, and utility shut-off service now, and also vouchers for out-of-town doctor's appointments. If they need help getting there, we give them vouchers. Just several. We always do our hygiene program if no one knows about that. We give supplies every 30 days to our clients if they come in. That includes laundry soap and things like that. We just have a lot of services. Lucky Dog program is working with us also now to give pet food away to clients that need it. We've just started a lot of new programs. So come in and see us at 721 West 2nd anytime.
Thank you, Kathy. Now, are you still accepting school supplies for those
Yes,
backpacks?
I will take anything someone wants to bring in. Yeah.
Well, wonderful. They're accepting those until they go out Monday. Thank you for doing that. And Wes Stewart with the Hutchinson Fire Department, will you join me for Pink Heels Day? This will be a fun one. But he's not wearing pink. I gave him a hard time for that. Whereas cancer affects millions of people all over the world, including the emergency workers who care for those battling this disease on a daily basis. And whereas we stand united in the attempt to eradicate this terrible disease and, until a cure is found, help alleviate the suffering of those living with cancer. And whereas in 2014, the American Cancer Society estimated that 1.6 million new cases of cancer would be diagnosed in the United States, including 14,630 in Kansas alone. And whereas the Pink Heels Tour strives to bring awareness and support by driving pink fire engines across the country. And whereas the Pink Heels Tour has visited over 1,000 cities in America, and has over 40,000 signatures on their pink fire trucks from survivors and family members who signed in memory of their loved ones who have lost their fights against cancer. And whereas on August 6, 2014, the Pink Hills Tour will join the local emergency workers in Hutchinson to encourage a citywide effort to raise awareness and show support for those in our community battling cancer. Now, therefore, I, Jade Pyrus de Carvalho, Vice Mayor of the City of Hutchinson, Kansas, do hereby proclaim August 6, 2014 as Pink Hills Day in the City of Hutchinson. Would you like to say a few words?
Sure. Thank you very much. I think the proclamation pretty much says it all. The intent of the Pink Hills Day is to raise awareness for those in our community, in our area that are battling cancer. It is truly a battle. I just want to plug a few of the events that we have going on tomorrow to celebrate this Pink Hills Day. The fire trucks are going to run into town about 10 o'clock, and we're going to set up at the New Dillon's Marketplace from 10 to 2. They'll have their trucks on display and have all their merchandise that they sell to raise funds and raise awareness for cancer. What they like to do is if there's somebody in the community that has cancer or is currently battling cancer or somebody that survived cancer, they allow them to sign the truck as kind of a memorial for themselves and just a neat gesture. And then in the afternoon, we've found a few citizens here in town that are battling cancer, and we're going to go have some home visits with them with the pink fire trucks. And not only pink fire trucks, but they have pink bunker gear also, the helmets and the coats and pants, so it's kind of neat. And we'll give those ladies some pink roses also. That's a very, very neat event. And then to top off the day over here at George Pyle Park across the street from 5:30 to 7:30, we're going to have an informal cookout with these guys. So we're inviting all the citizens and community to come out and eat some hot dogs with us and have a good time and just get to know these guys a little better and raise your awareness for how serious this event is. And while I have your attention, I'd like to plug another quick event. It's going to be at the State Fair. Some of our firefighters have volunteered to model bedazzled brassieres for another cancer awareness for Victory in the Valley. It's a local organization that's great, that has helped several people that I know. So if you want to come out and see some firefighters modeling bras, it's September 14th, last day of the fair at 1:30 p.m. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Wes. Thanks for
Do
all
we
your
get
efforts.
any input on who is going to model for us, or is that,
Would you like to participate?
no? Go ahead.
That was what he was really asking.
Pass on that one.
Well, this is the section of the meeting when we allow oral communications from the audience. If you would like to make some statements, please step to the podium, state your name and address. Please limit your remarks to 5 minutes, and just a reminder, this is for items not on the agenda.
Good morning, Mayor and Vice Mayor and City Council. It's my pleasure to introduce a new employee to you today. This is Justin LaFountain. He's been working here about 2 weeks. He came to us from Connecticut. He has a Bachelor of Arts in Geography with a concentration in planning, which he received from Central Connecticut State University. He did a 3-year internship in planning with the town of Wethersfield, Connecticut. And most recently, he was the assistant town clerk for the town of Colchester, Connecticut. He loves music and the outdoors. And just a little tidbit about him, the first time he was west of the Mississippi River was for his interview. So I just wanted to welcome him. He's doing a great job, and we're very happy to have him in our department.
Thank you. Welcome, Justin. You don't want to say anything?
Hi, I look forward to working here. I'm already enjoying it. I like this town quite a bit. So.
Fantastic. Thank you. Next item, please.
Item 6A, public hearing to consider adoption of the 2015 budget.
Is there a motion to open the public hearing?
So moved. Second.
We have a motion and a second. If there's no further discussion, will the clerk please call the roll?
Bush,
Yes.
Soldner,
Yes.
Pyrus de Carvalho,
Yes?
Dave Line.
Yes. Madam Vice Mayor and Council, John Deerdoff, City Manager, and I thought what I might do as to kick off our public hearing is to just provide a quick overview of the proposed 2015 budget, and at the conclusion of my comments, then we can open it up, or I'll turn it back to you, Vice Mayor, to take any public input that there might be. And again, this is a required public hearing for our annual budget. And I've got a PowerPoint that will be coming up here shortly. Unless I need to do something. What I thought I might first of all do is talk a little bit about the about the budget process and just kind of give people an idea of what we go through each year when we prepare our budget. Our budget process typically kicks off in February, where our department directors begin preparing their 5-year capital improvement program. Then during the months of March through May, the department directors work on their line item, their operating budgets, and at some point in time in there, then the city manager and finance director will sit down with each department director and go over their line items, go over their capital request and their equipment request. This year, in April, the council held its first, study session on the budget when we focused just on the capital improvements program. Then in June, the council had another study session on the capital improvement program, where we actually toured some of the different projects that we had throughout the city. Then on July 1st, the proposed budget was submitted to the city council. We followed that with a study session on July the 8th, and then a third study session on July 22nd. And today, August 5th, is our formal public hearing, and we hope to be able to approve our budget at the August 19th City Council meeting. The proposed budget this year was prepared using an assessed valuation, which is a big part of our annual budget. That figure of an increase of 3.35%, and that increase took us from last year's assessed valuation of $281 million to just over $290 million. And that in and of itself, leaving the mill levy alone, would have generated an additional $300,000 of property tax revenue for us that is included in the budget. And you can see from this visual that we've seen a fairly gradual increase in our assessed valuation each year, with the exception of 2010, where we had a small drop. I think it was less than 1%. But for the most part, we've seen gradual increases in our assessed valuation. The proposed budget that was submitted to the council on July 1st called for a mill levy increase of 2.565 mills. And after a couple study sessions with the council, we met in I guess it was July 22nd in a study session where staff shared with the council ways that we might be able to reduce that levy. And this here reflects that work, where the mill levy proposed increase is reflected at 1.724 mills. Again, we have two funds that are supported by property tax: our general fund, which is our operating budget that handles most of our operations, from police to fire to parks and streets and what have you. And then the bond and interest fund is where the city pays its outstanding principal and interest each year. You'll also notice there that HRC, which is a Hutchinson Recreation Commission levy, this will be the second year that the city is the levying authority for the Hutchinson Recreation Commission. You recall back in 2011, after several months of discussion and conversations with the USD 308, the city now is the taxing entity for the HRC. The mill levy request for HRC is unchanged, as you can see there, at 3.669. They also benefited from an increase in the assessed valuation that generates some additional property tax revenue for them without raising the mill levy. We do have a representative from HRC that is here today. Should there be any questions, they've held their required public hearing, and the Recreation Commission has approved their budget. The quick look at our mill levy history, visual over the past 10 years, and for the most part, it's been fairly flat. In 2009, we had a jump of a couple of mills. We then reduced it a mill the next year, and then for the last 5 years, it's been fairly flat, with the exception of this year. You can see the proposed 1.7 mill increase jump there. So just give you an idea kind of what we've done historically with our mill levy. When we look at general fund, again, our big fund, and our revenue sources, the big three we always talk about: sales tax, property tax, and franchise taxes. And sales tax represents the biggest revenue source for our general fund at 36%, followed by property tax at 33%, and then our franchise fees at 15%, and then just an assortment of other fees that round out the general fund summary. And franchise taxes are those revenues we receive from the percentage of Westar, gas company, telephone, the franchises that have been in place for many years. For the most part, our revenue projections are fairly flat. We projected a small increase in sales tax revenue, and typically what we do is we look at a 4 to 5 year trend on those types of revenues and making our projections. This year was a little interesting. Going back the last a couple of years, 13 and even into 14, we had a big spike in our sales tax revenue because of the hail event or hailstorm in 2013, and so certainly we didn't account for that in our projections, because that certainly isn't going to happen. At least we hope it doesn't happen every year. So, and we took that into account with these projections. On the expenditure side of things, our overall general fund expenses are up just a little over, right at 2.6% from last year's budget. And you can see here from this graphic that the biggest expense that we have in the general fund is personal services, and that hasn't changed for many years. Represents over 73% of our total budget. Wage increases, we've got in the budget for merit step increases for our employees. And when I looked at all the just employer costs that are going up for next year, from the wage increases to increases in our retirement, CAPERS, KP&F, our health insurance, that totals out to just under $500,000 of additional expenses we have in next year on the personal services, which is pretty normal in years that we're actually given wage increases. And being that it represents the biggest part of our budget, that always has a significant impact on what we look at each year. Just another comment on some of the things included. We do have housing. That's been a council initiative for the last several years, and we have $108,000 budgeted for housing initiatives, $75,000 for demolitions, and we've got $33,000 for just other housing initiatives that may come out in the course of the year. And of course, we have the fully funded position that's in the planning department, working with other planners on moving our housing agenda forward. I wanted to talk briefly about Fund Valley and Hobart Debtor. A lot of changes in the operation happening there, as you're aware. In the 2015 proposed budget reflects a new management agreement that we have with Hutchinson Recreation Commission. Back in early May, latter part of April, I had some conversations with HRC representatives, Tony Finley, who's here today with us, about operating agreement and about how we might be able to collaborate and work together on future operations at Fund Valley. And during those discussions, our intent was really to make this effective in 2015 if we were going to make those changes. Due to some personnel changes and some operational issues that we ran into in the early part of June, we moved a lot quicker, and really appreciate HRC stepping up and really through more of a handshake agreement stepped forward and helped us operate the facility through the remainder of this season. And so that agreement's in place, but we'll refine a new agreement and bring that back to the council for 15 later this year. And really, under this operating agreement now and into the future, essentially HRC will handle all the programming, the tournament management, league management, which they already do now. And the city will continue to provide all field, and will continue to own facilities, provide all the maintenance and capital improvements of those facilities. And really, this operating agreement is very similar to the current operating agreement that we have with HRC on the operation of Salt City Splash, an agreement that's been in place for years where the city owns the pool, we maintain the pool, we put all the capital improvements in the pool, and the HRC programs the pool during the swim season. And it's really worked out very well. This new arrangement, obviously the goal, when we talked, I know the council had some discussions in a study session about the continued increased subsidy at Fund Valley and Hobart Debtor. And under this 215 agreement and budget, we're projecting that subsidy to be just over $300,000, which is down from our actual subsidy in 2013 of just over $400,000. So we made some progress. But I think as we move forward, because we happen into this pretty quickly, we're going to sit down, we'll evaluate, and we think we're going to be able to lower that subsidy even more as we have more of an opportunity to talk about changes as we go forward. We talked about capital improvements during this discussion as well, and there was talk about let's replace bleachers and locker rooms and some bathroom upgrades. And rather than specifically mention budgets, we've incorporated into the capital improvement program $400,000 that is in a bonding capacity that we would issue at some point in time next year if we get to that point. That will not affect the 215 mill levy. It would be down the road. And one of the things we want to do from a staff perspective is sit down with HRC and really take a look at the operations out there. What's the future usage like out there? Because that may help us determine how much money we can invest in those facilities. And so we're hoping to be able to do that through the balance of this year and hopefully come back to the council early next year or sooner with a plan for improvements based on what we see the future usage needs are at Fun Valley. The annual street program, of course, was a big discussion. Last year, in the summer of 2013, in preparation for the 2014 budget, the city staff shared with the council our concern about allocating the same amount of money every year for our streets. And going back to 2008, we were funding from our special street fund the same amount, and actually started reducing the funding in 2011, 2012, 2013, and 2014. And it simply was a case where funding was not keeping up with the pace and the cost of street improvements. And there was an expression of concern from the council at that time, and asked staff to really take a look at that and bring a report back to the council at some point in time before the first of the year. And so we worked on that over the winter, and in April, the council, we had a study session, and we call it the State of the Streets, I guess, report, where our city engineering staff and public works staff prepared a report. And I think the presentation was pretty revealing to all of us in terms of that we're definitely falling behind as it relates to our investment in our streets, and that we really needed to change that trend if at all possible. And you recall that report focused on the timing of the timing of these this work. When do we do it? Our current funding levels. We looked at peer review, looked at other cities and how much money they're invested in the street program, and then obviously a recommendation for a level of increased funding for the program. And the recommendation was that we provide an additional $400,000 to our street program, and that's reflected in the top number there, the Kraken Street Seal program, just a little under $400,000, but some of that falls down into the other categories. So, the additional $400,000, when you look at it, and we can talk about the mill levy increase and think about that represents equal to about 1.4 mills, that in and of itself, let alone some of the other things that we've had to increase. So. The additional dollars there in that arterial collector surfacing, that 1.4 from 7, really there's 500 and some $1,000 of federal exchange money that we get there, and that's a second half of our 213 money and all of our 214 money. And so typically what we do is, on those bigger projects, we have to build up funds over a couple of years, and then every 2 years doing a bigger project. And that project is slated to be the 30th Street from Maine to Lorraine overlay project, or as far as we'll be able to go there. So again, that was a big discussion, I think, all spring and all through our budgeting process, that we do what we can to try to inject some more money into our annual street investment program. And we feel like we've got a good plan presented for the 2015 budget. The last area I wanted to talk about was utilities. And during the budget development, staff and we sit down and we review our revenue, our fund reserves, and our upcoming expenses to determine if our current rates are keeping pace. And this will be the fourth year in a row that we have not increased our water and sewer rates. So there are no proposed increases in our water and sewer rates. There is going to be a change potentially in our stormwater utility. And the council remember in 2013 we actually doubled our stormwater utility fee, went from roughly $282,000 a year to $564,000. One of the things we talked about during that, we've been talking about it as a council for several years, is a look at development of a ERU fee structure, the equivalent residential unit. And the thought is it's just a fairer way of assessing stormwater fees. And the council approved us moving forward on that study. We've got a consultant in place. We've got a stormwater advisory committee that's made up of various community members currently working on that. They're taking a look at our needs. They're taking a look at what potential fee structure concepts are out there. They'll finish their work up probably this fall, and we'll be bringing back a recommendation to the council sometime later this year. The idea would be that if there is a change in implementation, that it would not occur until the 2016 budget year. So a lot of work been done on that, and I think the bottom line is that if we're really going to make any progress on our drainage improvement list and our stormwater issues, that we really need to come up with some dedicated funding to that program, because over the years that's always just an easy cut, was just, well, we won't do this drainage project. So with that concludes my comments, and certainly there are numerous other budget items that we've talked about over the past couple of months during the study sessions, but really just wanted to kind of give folks an idea of some of the bigger issues that we dealt with. And did want to say really pleased with our department directors and their work on the budget this year. Frank Edwards and Marcella and Merrill, they did a lot of extra work during my absence in the month of June. Really appreciated that. And so with that, I'm going to turn it back over to the Vice Mayor, and you can conduct the balance of the public hearing, and staff will stand for any questions that you might have.
Thank you, John. Before we open it up to public input, are there any questions or comments from the council about the budget?
No.
Had a lot of meetings about this. So is there anyone in the audience who would like to make some comments to the council about the budget? If so, please state your name and address. I'd like to believe we're just that good, but I'm not sure that's the case. Have there been any efforts in the past to move the public hearing to, to the evening or other days, or is it always like this? Nobody wants, because we get an awful lot of feedback after the budget's approved.
We haven't had night. I mean, one of the things I think our advantage is that, and part of the reason during the public hearing I like to do a little bit of a presentation is because we do have a lot of people that watch on TV, they watch the replay, and one of the things we have done is that there are times where you would do the public hearing, like today, and then approve the budget later in the agenda. And so we've always tried to do the public, not always, but lately tried to do the public hearing, 2 weeks ahead of the actual approval. And that gives people an opportunity that may not be able to be here, but can watch on TV or the replay that can address any of their concerns. But so I think that helps a little bit by giving it that 2 weeks and from the time we present a lot of this. And
Yeah.
there's been a lot of media coverage. The paper's done a wonderful job. Wonderful, I don't know if that's the right word, but
I would say that's the right word. The Hutchinson News has done a wonderful
complete job in reporting on our budget. So.
Well, I don't know if there's any value in some sort of online mechanism. Certainly wouldn't be constructive if it were anonymous, but I don't know. It's always helpful to have input from the public on these things. Is there any further discussion from the council? If not, I'd entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
I so move.
Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Please call the roll.
Bush,
Yes.
Soldner,
Yes.
Pyroste Carvalho,
Yes.
Dave Line.
Yes.
Madam Vice Mayor, I don't know if you guys want to talk. We did talk about a study session, or are you ready just to, because this will be teed up on August the 19th at our regular meeting for final approval, and we probably could talk about whether you wanted to have an additional study session on this. And I know we talked about dates, and there were some conflicts next week, and it seemed like we focused on the 14th. Does that ring a
I
bell?
think that's the date.
That's
Yeah,
what
I have
I
that on my
had down.
calendar.
Yeah, that's what I had done.
Yeah.
To Jay's point, I would like to definitely have the public review meeting then, so that we have the opportunity to receive public comment based on what the paper writes, people watching this meeting, and get some additional feedback. There may not be any. I mean, I've got a number of emails weekly on the budget and on the condition of our streets and roads, so I think one more meeting would be a good idea. That's my opinion. I don't know what the rest of the council thinks.
Yeah, I would agree with Bob. I've only had one email concerning the budget. So those of you who have received more, I think it would be appropriate at that time for you to share, because evidently people don't send their comments to everyone. They send them just to whomever is their
The district.
Right.
representative.
Paul, in a case like that, because of the Open Meetings Act, can we share emails with all the council members as long as we don't make any comments regarding emails? Or do we need to send those to John and have John disseminate them to the council?
Well, if you're just sharing comments, I don't know that that's a problem because you're not going to know who it is or where it came from.
Right, but as long as I don't make a comment about what they said, right?
You
I mean, I can't say, I thought this was a great email and really support this idea and send it to all the council members. That's,
Yeah,
Well,
that
yeah,
would
if you're
be.
sending it back and forth to one another,
Yeah,
that's
no.
the problem.
And
If
that-
you're already gathered together for a study session of some type
Right.
and you simply share it, it's a problem when you have the majority of the council involved in something outside the open session.
Right,
Right.
but if we are in meeting, we can sit
Sure
and
you
talk
can.
about, okay.
right.
Sure you can.
But Nancy's point was that if I get an email from a citizen, she would like me to forward that email to the
Well,
other
no,
council
you,
members.
no, you don't necessarily have to forward it to me. Just when we have this study session, be willing to share those comments that
Okay.
people have made. No,
All right.
you don't have to send it to me.
Okay.
I mean, it's more.
You get enough email, huh?
Huh?
You get enough email.
Yeah. Well,
Apparently not.
no, I really haven't.
I'll send some of my emails.
No, no. I think I just as soon not have them.
Okay.
So we'll plan on that meeting, was that at 8:30 on the
I think
14th?
so, yeah.
Okay.
Okay,
I have them.
Thank you,
we'll
John.
plan on it. Thank you.
Next item, please.
Item 6B, public hearing on request to overturn the Landmarks Commission determination for property at 612 East Avenue A.
Is there a motion to open the public hearing?
So
I-
moved.
Okay,
We have a motion, is there a second?
second.
Please call the roll.
Bush,
Yes.
Soldner,
Yes.
Pyros de Carvalho,
Yes?
Dave Line.
Yes.
Just waiting for my slides. Good morning again, Vice Mayor and City Council. Before you today is an appeal of the landmarks determination for the property located at 612 East Avenue A, which was the Wiley House. And the project involves exterior alterations to that structure. Case number 14 LMA-01. The owner and applicant are Gary and Darla Bigger, and the contractor is Kevin Starks with Starks Siding Company. And as I mentioned, this was the Wiley House. The appeal before you is located in the Houston Whiteside National Register District, and the house was built roughly in 1908. It is considered a contributing structure to that district. You can see a few photos of the house today, or as it is today on the slide. And here's an outline of the Houston Whiteside District. All the buildings that are in red are considered contributing structures to that district, which means they are historically significant. They've retained a lot of their historical character. The ones that are in white are considered non-contributing to the district. They've been altered in some fashion. And then the ones that are the little black dots up there are actually accessory structures, like garages primarily, that are also considered contributing to the district. And the subject property is in yellow. It's a little difficult to see there, but it's in yellow on Avenue A. The couple proposes to install 9 vinyl replacement windows upstairs, install vinyl siding on the exterior of the structure and on the soffits, also to wrap all windows and door casings with vinyl, and finally to wrap the porch beams and cover the porch ceiling with vinyl. The photo that I have there shows the siding material as well as the colors and the soffit material. And it should be noted that while there are some houses in the district that have vinyl siding, to my knowledge, this would be the first time that we would be approving vinyl siding. If you choose to overturn the Landmarks Commission's determination, this would be the first time we would be approving vinyl siding in this district. And I do have samples if you want the actual original samples. Because the property is located in a National Register Historic District, the Landmarks Commission had to review the proposed project, and that review was held on July 10, 2014. The Landmarks Commission serves as a certified local government and reviews projects on behalf of the State of Kansas Historical Society, as well as the National Park Service. The review criteria that we are required to look at are based on the Secretary of the Interior standards for rehabilitation. That's the standard that the Landmarks Commission has to use. And based upon those standards that they're required to follow, the Landmarks Commission determined that the proposed project would damage or destroy the historic character of the house or of the district. Basically, they said you can't do this project based on the historic factors that they have to look at. But there is in state statute a provision for an appeal to the City Council, and the City Council has a different set of criteria that they can use to look at these projects. So it's not that will this damage or destroy the historic district, it is there any prudent or feasible alternative to the project? And you're allowed to look at technical issues, design issues, the project relationship to the community-wide plan, and economic issues. So I just want to make it clear that there's a different review criteria that the City Council has versus the Landmarks Commission. And based upon your review criteria, the motion would be either to reverse or uphold the Landmarks Commission determination based upon a finding that there is or is not a feasible and prudent alternative to this project. I have some other materials for you, a few numbers if you want, but I know this is not the first appeal you've heard, so I didn't want to spend a lot of time going through a bunch of slides. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Is there any discussion from the council?
Is that the vinyl siding that they're talking about using?
Hold it up for the camera. Yes, this is the vinyl siding material, and it is the narrower width that would match the width of the current siding material, and I can pass this around. And then this is the soffit material, which would go up underneath, underneath of the eaves.
Wood grain to it.
Yeah. Looks good. Okay.
I had a question about the motion. Do we need to include which review criteria we're picking? We did on the last one.
Yes, we do.
Oh, okay. Yes, I would assume that you would want to. I can go back a slide if you want.
I think I'm ready to make a motion, Jade, if you're.
Yeah, if there's no further
Yeah.
discussion, I'll
Yeah.
accept a motion.
I'd like to make a motion that we reverse the Landmarks Commission determination.
We need a motion to close the public hearing first.
Yeah, I'll make a
Oh.
motion, we close the public hearing.
And I'll second.
Do we need to allow public input prior to
Yeah.
doing
Yes.
that?
Is there any?
Yes.
Yeah, is there anyone who would like to address the council on this issue? If so, please approach the podium, state your name and address, and limit your comments to 5 minutes. I tried. Okay. So does the motion and second stand?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. The clerk, please call the roll.
Bush,
Yes.
Soldner,
Yes.
Pyros de Carvalho.
Yes.
Dave Lyon.
Yes.
Well, I'd like to make a few comments prior to your motion,
Okay.
Bob. I just wanted to say to the Landmarks Commission that we appreciate the work that you do and that we're not in any way trying to minimize it. And we understand that you're approaching things from a different criteria than we are. As I mentioned in the last meeting, we're just dealing with two priorities, two opposing priorities at times, and historic preservation is very important, but our community has really targeted the deterioration of our housing stock as an issue that needs to be addressed, and we have put significant resources to that end. So just wanted to take a moment to thank the Landmarks Commission for the work they do and say that when we choose to reverse decisions that you make, it's not in any way to minimize your contributions to our community. Is there a motion?
I'd like to make a motion that we reverse the Landmarks Commission determination as there is not a feasible and prudent alternative to this project based on economic issues.
I'd second that.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion?
I would just add to your comments that I've talked to several Landmarks Commission members, and they are in favor many times with us making this decision to overturn theirs because they are indeed forced to go through certain criteria which are not feasible for members of the community sometimes to pay the cost to improve their house up to that level. And so.
One thing I also noticed in the notes from the Landmarks Commission meeting is, I think it was Lloyd Armstrong brought up the point that it seems that there are some people in that district who aren't fully aware that they're in that district, and I know it's not feasible to go door to door and inform them, but I wonder what could be done when ownership transfers to make that more clear.
We are working on some efforts because we realize that we've heard this comment from residents who come in to get permits more than once. So the Landmarks Commission with staff are working on some efforts to improve identification in that district. One thing would be to put historic street signs in. There are some historic street lighting, but possibly to add some more historic street lighting. Also, possibly to put plaques on the houses or offer them as available for houses. So we think that that might help. We can't figure out a way to interject ourselves into the sale process.
Yeah.
I don't know that there's really a good way to do that, but we are working on it because we do want people to know that they are in a historic district.
Thank you.
Is Gary and Darla Bigger here?
Yeah.
I'd just like to convey the appreciation that you all have recognized with wanting to make improvements to your residents there, and the tremendous investment that you are willing to make. It will enhance the neighborhood, and I know this has been a long, involved process to get to this point, so thank you for stepping forward and improving and wanting to improve that property.
Is there any further discussion from the council, or is there anyone else in the audience who would like to address the council on this issue? If not, please call the roll.
Bush.
Yes.
Soldner.
Yes.
Pyros de Carvalho.
Yes.
Dave Line.
Yes.
Next item, please.
Items 7A through M, consent agenda.
Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I move to approve the consent agenda.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? One thing I did want to mention is that the consent agenda includes several appointments to various city boards, and a lot of times we don't take the time to mention these because they're in the consent agenda, but we appreciate everybody who steps up to volunteer for those commissions. We have probably 12 or 15 of them, so thank you to everyone who's stepping up to volunteer. Clerk, please call the roll.
Bush.
Yes.
Soldner.
Yes.
Pyros de Carvalho.
Yes.
Dave Line.
Yes.
Next item, please.
Item 8A, consider ordinance amending section 21-302 of the Hutchinson City Code.
Paul Brown, City Attorney. When we amended the plumbing code almost a year to the day when we did this last year, there was one particular provision about grease trap capacity that got eliminated that should have stayed in. So this minor amendment is to put it back where it should be. And grease trap capacity is about keeping that grease out of the plumbing lines of the city, and particularly out of the wastewater treatment facility, and it has great benefit. And code inspection came to me and said, please put this back, and that's the sole purpose of this proposed ordinance.
Was there a particular case that prompted the readmission, or?
I don't know that there was a particular case.
Okay.
There was just a need.
Figured it out.
Is there any discussion? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
I would move to approve the ordinance amending section 21-302 of the Hutchinson City Code as recommended by our city attorney.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Please call the roll.
Bush.
Yes.
Soldner.
Yes.
Pyros de Carvalho.
Yes.
Dave Line.
Yes.
Next item, please.
Item 8B, consider ordinance authorizing the issuance of general obligation bonds for improvements to Orchard Park.
Good morning, Frank Edwards, Director of Finance. We've got several ordinances and resolutions to consider this morning. There's a lot of positives going around the city with construction. So the first one I'd like to introduce is authorizing issuance of general obligation bonds for improvements at Riverbanks Orchard Park. These improvements are what we would consider phase 2. They include certain improvements to the outer loop which is a parking lot and related infrastructure. The project is estimated to cost about $250,000, and we're asking that the council authorize this work and adopt the ordinance as submitted in your package.
Any discussion? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the ordinance regarding general obligation bonds as related to Orchard Park as presented by staff.
I would second.
We have a motion and a second. Please call the roll.
Bush.
Yes.
Soldner.
Yes.
Pyros de Carvalho.
Yes.
Dave Line.
Yes.
Next item, please.
Item 8C, consider resolution authorizing main traffic-way improvements.
This resolution relates to the railroad crossing at Washington Street. I think we actually toured that last year in the 2014 budget. We're getting close to the point that the work is ready to begin. The city has an agreement with the railroad to share costs in this project. The city's share would be 50% of that cost, or it's estimated to be $132,000. But before the work can begin, we're asking that the city authorize and advise BNSF Railroad to proceed with the improvements. And we need a resolution adopted to be able to do that. So staff recommends adopting this resolution.
Is there a motion?
I will move to adopt the resolution as presented by staff.
Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Please call the roll.
Bush.
Yes.
Soldner.
Yes.
Pyros de Carvalho.
Yes.
Dave Line.
Yes.
Next item, please.
Item 8D, consider resolution authorizing family entertainment waterline district.
We actually have two resolutions to look at here, 8D and 8E. To consider, this is the Family Entertainment District, or the bowling alley, as most people refer to it. The first resolution is for the water line street improvements. The cost of that would be $81,200. That would be 100% assessed against the improvement district after the work is done, and the city would have no obligations to pay that. The second resolution would be 8E. It concerns sanitary sewer improvements for the same location. The cost of that is $88,100, of which 41% would be assessed against the improvement district, and the city would be responsible for 59% of that. The method of assessment would be equally per lot, and it would be divided that way. The developer has met all of the requirements of the city with a letter of credit, and the city has the financial capacity to meet these obligations, and the staff recommends adoption of these two resolutions individually.
If these were adopted, when would that work begin on the water line? And
Rich, it's in the next few months is what I understood.
Yeah.
okay, fantastic. Well, these need to be considered separately. Is there a
Yes.
motion for the water line?
I would move to approve the resolution authorizing Family Entertainment Waterline District.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Motion and a second. Please call the roll.
Bush.
Yes.
Soldner.
Yes.
Pyros de Carvalho.
Yes.
Dave Line.
Yes.
Is there a motion for the sanitary sewer district?
I'll make the motion for the Family Entertainment Sanitary Sewer District as presented by staff.
Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Please call the roll.
Bush.
Yes.
Soldner.
Yes.
Pyros de Carvalho.
Yes.
Dave Line.
Yes.
Next item, please.
Item 8F, consider resolution authorizing the public sale of general obligation refunding and improvement bonds and general obligation temporary notes.
Okay, the city is requesting the authorization to sell temp notes for 4 community improvement districts for the water, sanitary sewer, and street improvements. These include Oxford Point, Quail Ridge, Kissawah North, and Family Entertainment Districts for the temp notes. They'll be callable on January 1st, 2015, and converted to bonds at that point in time, and the property assessments at the time would occur. The total amount of the temp notes requested is $3,115,000, including the cost of issuance. Lastly, We have a GO bond. The bond is 2005B that we're requesting to refund. That bond would save the city approximately $56,000 in interest, and it would has a remaining balance of $1,230,000 that we would like to refund, lowering the interest rate from approximately 4.2% to about 1.8%.
Wow.
So there's about 5 years remaining on that particular bond, and we could save about $56,000 net of all expenses by doing this. And we recommend that we approve this resolution.
Is there a motion?
I would move to approve the resolution authorizing the public sale of general obligation, refunding and improvement bonds, and general obligation temporary notes as recommended by our city finance director.
Second.
Motion and a second. Please call the roll.
Bush.
Yes.
Soldner.
Yes.
Tyros de Carvalho.
Yes.
Dateline.
Yes.
Pruitt.
Next item, please. That's okay.
Item 9A, consider contract for construction phase engineering services on Quail Ridge Addition improvements.
Good morning, Michael Kramer with the City Engineering. At the July meeting, the contract for the construction of the Quail Ridge improvements, that's the water, sewer, and the streets to serve the subdivision, was approved. And our engineering staff we don't have enough staff to cover all of the projects right now. So this is a contract to provide the inspection services and some of the construction engineering on the project. It is hourly, and it is with Certified Engineering Design, and they were the engineer that designed the project. And so typically that's how we go about selecting that.
It's an hourly, but it's a not to exceed, right?
Correct.
Okay, just wanted to clarify that.
And the amounts are within the petition.
Is there any discussion from the council? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
I will move to approve the contract for construction phase engineering services as presented by staff.
Is there a second?
Second?
We have a motion and a second. Please call the roll.
Bush.
Yes.
Soldner.
Yes.
Tyros de Carvalho.
Yes.
Dateline.
Yes.
Next item, please.
Item 9B, consider contract for construction phase engineering services on Kissawah North and Kissawah North Second Edition improvements.
Again, the Kissawah North improvements were approved at the July 15th meeting for construction, and similar situation with our staff. And on this one, we did ask the design engineer if they would like to do the construction engineering and inspection services, and they are short-staffed as well, and asked us to, if we would be willing to find another consultant to do that work. Because of the relationship with Certified Engineering and already, on the table to do some of that work, we approached them, and they are able to take this on. And so again, it's an hourly contract with a not to exceed. It is within the petition amounts.
So are we not required to bid that out since it's within the petition amounts? Is that how that works? I'm not saying we should have, I'm just curious how that
typically we
works.
don't, any engineering work, we don't bid per se, because you don't want to select engineers based on cost
The
alone.
Okay.
You base it on qualifications.
A low bid is not always good.
With that being said, I think this is very reasonable hourly rates.
Great. Is there any other discussion? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion we approve the contract for the Kissawah North and Kissawah North Second Edition engineering services as presented by staff.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. Please call the roll.
Bush.
Yes.
Soldner.
Yes.
Tyros de Carvalho.
Yes.
Dateline.
Yes.
Next item, please.
Item 10, report of city officials.
John, let's start with you.
Nothing, May?
Bob?
Just two things. In the northeast, there's been a lot of damage to Lucille Street. due to the construction at the new elementary school. And I know that Reg and his team have worked with the construction agent to make some improvements to that. And I guess I just wanted to make sure that we stay on top of that, especially with the rains, and that we have our staff going out there, you know, at some level of frequency to ensure that those improvements are made. I've talked to a number of residents in that area, and they understand, and we're all supporters of building a new school and understand that the roads are going to be torn up a little bit by the construction company, but they just want to ensure that their vehicles are not torn up traveling that road to get to work. Just want to ensure that staff stay on top of that, and I know Reg has been involved with that, and I see the work that's been done out there, and I see you're nodding your head, so I'm just sure that we're on top of that. The second one, and this is, and I'd mentioned this to the city manager, it's something that we need to look at farther down the road, but maybe not too far, and that is the width of 43rd Street with the new park and the desire to have additional biking up there. I live off of 43rd, and typically I will, like on a weekend, I'll see 4 or 5, you know, up to 10 bikers as well as joggers jogging biking on K61, as well as running on 43rd and biking on 43rd, going to and from the park, or just using it as an access point out. That's a very narrow road for 2 vehicles to be on. When you add a bike or runners, it becomes pretty dangerous. And I've had several people talk to me about what they thought were potential accidents or accidents that could easily happen with a runner, and of course we're all very cautious about that. But I do think that's something that engineering is going to have to look at, or Public Works, as a project, maybe for the next year or two. I don't know exactly what would have to happen to that. I know it'll be a big project, but I think for public safety, that's going to be something that needs to be looked at sooner rather than later. But I do know that's in the future.
John, can you, oh, I'm sorry.
I was just going to say, and are there any plans for 43rd, Reg? I mean,
There are no street improvement, you know, major reconstruction plans at 43rd, and typically that, you know, is based on traffic volumes and just, you know, the new development in the area. Some of that area is in the county. I mean, there's county roads in and out, so that complicates things further. But that's a major. I mean, that's a major project in terms of, if you're talking about a reconstruct with curb and gutter and 3 lanes and that kind of stuff. But so certainly it would be something that would be talked about, looked about within the next year. Probably not within the next 2 years. You know, probably not unless the council decides that that's a priority. So, you know, we did make some improvements with the new school project on 43rd, where they were required to add some turn lanes, which will deal with some of the bus traffic that they've got there. But and I think we'll see what that traffic volume does over time. You know, now that, you know, 43rd really doesn't connect to K61, I'd be surprised if traffic volume goes up. I think it probably goes down. And, you know, that plays into decisions in terms of, you know, where we spend those kind of dollars.
well, and I would agree. I would agree that traffic volume will go down, but I think biking and runners traffic will go up, and I think it's a safety issue more than it is having anything to do with traffic counts.
And
If we do this on traffic counts, we
Yeah.
shouldn't do anything to that road. But
Yeah.
but based on safety issues, I think that's going to be the criteria that's going to move or not move this project.
Yeah, I did want to mention that our bike and ped
Right.
plan that's underway
Yeah.
is looking at 43rd and different options along 43rd for that, and for the entire stretch, really, from the west to the east. Looking at off-road facilities versus on-road facilities, and kind of trying to gauge what would be best. And so we're looking to our consultant to help us make those determinations.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
When will that plan be presented, Michael?
You know, I'm thinking that it's in a September
Right.
timeframe
Oh,
when
wow,
it
that's
starts to
great.
get wrapped up, but hopefully that's not too optimistic to say. All right,
wait and
thank you.
see.
Thank you.
That's all I have.
Nancy?
Nothing.
I don't have anything either. You're up, John.
Couple things. At the July 15th city council meeting, had a citizen address the council concerned about public comment and our procedures for citizen participation at meetings. And there was a suggestion that we look at the USD 308's process, which I've included a copy of that, I believe, in your packet there. But, after we've really looked, if you look at currently at our city code, and I've also provided a copy of that, it's my opinion that we've got everything we need in place now. And it's really a matter of the presiding officer, which would normally be the mayor or the vice mayor, to follow those procedures and can control that process without developing another policy or anything like that. And I just wanted to bring that up because we talked about that and whether the council felt comfortable with, just leaving things as they are. And I think it's a matter for us or for the council presiding officer that's really in charge of that meeting. And Vice Mayor's kept this meeting under control so far today, so she's done very good. But there is a lot to that, and I just believe we've got procedures in place. It's just a matter how we enforce and implement those procedures.
John, I appreciate you looking into that, and I had never read the original code of conduct, and it's pretty.
I hadn't either, and
I don't
Paul
think any of us
presented
did.
that, and I said, yeah.
Thanks, Paul.
Yeah, no,
It looks like it covers things, so. But appreciate you looking at 308s anyway.
So, again, if you want some additional procedures, we over the years we haven't had a lot of problems.
I mean, I was just saying 7 and a half years, this is the first time that we've had a situation where a citizen went from being emotional to probably being, verbally abusive. And it's an incredibly rare occurrence, and I don't think we need to be making more policies and bureaucratic, missives in order to address a problem that's already done and gone and probably won't return.
Yeah, no, I think what's currently in place is more than adequate.
John, what are your thoughts? Are you in favor of that?
Okay.
Did you have anything else, John?
I do have one other thing. There was a editorial in the paper, I think, last week, and I typically don't comment on a lot of those. I just read them and put them away because the next day there'll be another one. And it talked about housing, and it talked about the city's, I think, the gist of it was that the city needs to take on more risk. And I wanted to point out that just this morning, we take risk. We took a risk on 3 new subdivisions in our community. And I don't know if people realize that, but when we issue these bonds, our developers are required to put up either a 35% letter of credit or a 25% cash bond. And so the city taxpayers are at risk for 70 to 65% or whatever those numbers are of that project. So if those specials don't get paid, the city taxpayer is on the hook for that. And, our process is no different than many communities. And, I always point to the example of if you talk to the City of Junction City officials today and ask them about their risk tolerance for housing investment. And I think you'd get a really different answer. But I don't know if that was the gist of it, but I just wanted to, I look at that and I say, okay, we've got 3 new subdivisions being, out there. So apparently there's a demand. And if there's a demand, the market will meet that demand. It's just like hotels. I mean, when there's always that a couple of years where we just don't have rooms, and then developers build hotels, and so I guess my feathers got a little ruffled when we talk about the city needs to take more risk. We're taking a risk on every subdivision that we do when we utilize special assessment funding. So anyway. That's my editorial comment.
Okay. And
that's all I have.
John, how long do you think we should set for executive session in this motion?
Oh, yes. Let's say 11:30.
11:30. All right. Is there a motion to recess into executive session?
I move that we recess into executive session till 11:30, hoping it goes much shorter.
I would second that.
Please call the roll.
Bush.
Yes.
Solner.
Yes.
Tyros de Carvalho.
Yes.
Dave Line.
Yes.
And there'll be no action taken after the meeting.